Hello there, it's noon on Monday. On today's show, I'll be speaking to Dr. Hasti Haron, National Transplant Resource Center. He's, of course, going to speak to us from there in conjunction with the National Awareness Organ Donation Week this year. But just before that, our crisis management analyst will walk us through foreign funds to train refugees and false news and online fraud, a threat to unity and harmony. I'm Jessy Chahal. You're watching The Brief right here on Bernama TV. Thanks for joining me. Of course, let's move swiftly into our news in brief segment today. Chief Justice Tun Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat and four other judges are hearing Dato Sri Najib Razak's application to adduce additional evidence in his SRC case to nullify the trial that saw him sentenced to a 12-year jail term and a fine of 210 million ringgit. Justice Tengku Maimun is heading a 5-member federal court bench during the proceedings, which begin at 9:48 earlier today. Well, of course, the court is scheduled to hear first Najib's application to adduce new evidence in the SRC case in a bid to ultimately seek a retrial. And to adduce, if you're wondering what that means, that simply means to give reasons why you think something is true. In fact, perhaps to reinforce the evidence that he's bringing in as well. In other news, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said he will dissolve Parliament to pave the way for the GE15 or the General Elections 15 if a study by Wanita BN shows that voters are in favor of the coalition. The Prime Minister says the Wanita BN's survey should not be limited to just BN supporters, but should also cover or consider to cover those of other coalitions and those on the fence, literally the fence sitters. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has announced a reward of 20,000 ringgit to athletes who successfully break any national record at the 2022 Institutions of Higher Learning Games, or SUKIPT, S-U-K-I-P-T, which began yesterday. The Prime Minister, during his officiating speech of the Games at the University Pendidikan Sultan Idris Stadium last night, expressed his hope that these games will produce more high-performance athletes with winning mindsets. Well, of course, with that in mind, here's good news for all football fans. Keluarga Malaysia will have the opportunity to watch the Qatar 2022 World Cup matches for absolutely free. RTM will be the official broadcaster of the world's biggest sporting event. The KCOM Minister Tan Sri Anwar Musa said a total of 41 matches will be broadcast by RTM, 27 live matches including the finals, and 14 delayed broadcasts involving 130 hours of airtime overall. The Qatar World Cup will be held from November 20th till December 18th. Now that you have your dates and you have a free channel, why not get everyone together and have some good times planned up ahead? The matches will be broadcast through 3 channels, that's namely TV2, TVOK, and Sukan RTM, as well as live streaming via RTM Click. So wherever you go, you can watch that match as well. And the Jom Kenali Bernama campaign that runs until the end of this year is an effort by Bernama, which is the national news agency, to reach out to the community. Now, according to Bernama's corporate strategy head, Mariati Muhammad Arif, the campaign was highlighted in every tour series that Bernama participated in, including the Keluarga Malaysia Aspiration Tour, the Keluarga Malaysia Rio Tour, and other programs that have been organized by the Communications Ministry. Well, with that, we move on to our daily analyst, Nordin Abdullah, and what he has in store for us. Nordin, good to see you after the weekend. Many things trending, and of course, you're having your pulse on all of these issues, developing issues as well. Let's first get your perspective with the SRC trial. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, it is a trending topic on social media already this morning, and I think it's going to be a trending topic for the next couple of days. For me, when it comes to official announcements, and this is one of the things that there's going to be a lot of speculation, there's going to be a lot of conversation, there's going to be a lot of, in a sense, that we're waiting to fill that information vacuum. But I always like to remind people to keep it, in a sense, keep it locked on to Bernama and other reliable news sources to ensure that you're getting the right news at the right time, and not to over speculate and deal with the facts. As exciting or as challenging as any situation may be, it's always important not to spread false information.
That's right. Of course, Bernama.com is updated regularly, and so please log on for the most verified news. Nordin, let's get started. We begin with this. Here's an article, in fact, plucked from Bernama.com. According to a foreign minister, the government is using foreign funds to cover the cost of skills training that will be given to Myanmar refugees. He's also gone on to say that the government will not use public funds in any effort to help refugees obtain skills in the country. And according to him, the country has so far not been able to absorb any refugees in the employment sector because they do not have the required skills. What's this all about, Nordin?
Well, I think this is the silver lining to a couple of different clouds in that sense. I mean, one, the training sector in Malaysia is going to benefit from foreign direct aid that's going to come in from international bodies, from international donors, to help train these refugees. And I think there's a benefit there for our local industry. At the same time, it's ensuring the good mental health and well-being of these people who are here in the country. And then thirdly, it's looking towards the possibility of filling a void in the labor market that's been left by a lot of the foreign workers, especially the low-paid, lower-skilled workers that are no longer coming into the country. So, if a sustainable solution can be reached there, I think there's a possibility for Malaysia to come out on top in this current refugee crisis, which has been precipitated mostly because of the current problem in Myanmar. And of course, the foreign minister continues to take his very strong position in terms of diplomatic representations to the military government there. But at the same time, he hasn't forgotten that there are real humans involved. And within the kind of construct of the Keluarga Malaysia concept, sometimes there are people who are here as guests, whether they're for whatever reason, but Malaysia is a very welcoming place. So I think it's a very good development as we see it.
That's right. Well, let's move on to another topic that we wanted to highlight today as well with your perspective. Online fraud and dissemination of false news. Now, this could undermine the well-being and unity of the people, Malaysians, thus posing a threat to the country's independence. Obviously, a timely discussion now that we're in the month of August and Merdeka is around the corner. The Director of Warfare and Issue Management Division at the Department of Information has said that people need to be more careful about the threat because it is an effort by irresponsible parties who just want to create instability in the country. Unfortunately, we have a few apples like that. So we as a community, especially the younger generation, has to remember that the struggle to defend the country's independence is something that is continuous so that Malaysia would remain free, united, and progressive, and not sort of, succumbing to many of these threats.
Well, Jessy, from a crisis management perspective, we are starting to use this term of social cyber battle space, and we're seeing it as a type of area of conflict, area of crisis, and an area of concern for sovereign nations as well as corporations. So the ability to manage that space now in this very aggressive, threat-prone environment is very important. At the same time, we need to look at everyone's role and everyone's playing their part in terms of a very simple thing. And one of the things we talk about is this idea around cyber resilience. But what we're talking really about is cyber security at the very low level. It's simple things like making sure you keep your passwords protected and all that kind of things. When you start to get into this idea, you start to realize that everyone has their role to play, whether it's your own personal devices, whether it's your own personal things like bank accounts, or whether it's at the office. this issue has become more and more prevalent, especially as we've seen, rises in cybercrime, rises in fraud cases, and also people using social media to infiltrate and get this information that ultimately leads to massive losses at the family level. So this idea of cyber hygiene is now going to become more and more prevalent, and we need to start working harder as a team and realizing that it's actually everybody's responsibility, not just the government's. Although the government is putting policies in place, they're improving the legal frameworks. They're putting more resources into agencies like Cybersecurity Malaysia. But at the same time, it's going to come down to every single individual's ability to manage their own cybersecurity.
That's right. We, the people, we have the power as well. Nordin, will check in with you again. And if you'd like to know more about the news that Nordin and I have been discussing, of course, visit bernama.com. The articles are right there. Nordin, check in with you tomorrow, same time, same place. Let's move on to business in brief right now. In business, the ringgit opened higher against the US dollar on Monday as buying interest for the local note increased. Today, $1 is 4 ringgit 44 cent versus the greenback from Friday's close. At the share market, Bursa Malaysia retreated from last week's gains to open slightly lower today as profit-taking activities emerged in selected heavyweights following the strong closing on Friday. At 9:23 a.m., the FBM KLCI eased 2.30 points to 1503.89 from 1506.19 at Friday's close. And briefly, gold is 248 ringgit 71 cent per gram. That's up 1 ringgit 69 cent. The week ended last week on Friday. Well, the Malaysia Agriculture, Horticulture and Agro-Tourism Exhibition 2022, better known as MAHA 2022, ended yesterday and recorded spectacular response with over 1.4 million visitors and registering sales of over 260 million ringgit, exceeding its set target. According to the Agriculture and Food Industry Minister, this year's exhibition was the biggest in terms of visitors and sales, with 1.2 million physical visitors, 266 virtual visitors and booths, and the sales recorded included direct sales, online sales, and business matching between 8 foreign marketing companies. Huge. A total of 33 MOUs were signed by various parties, including international and local operators, with a total investment value of over 5.64 billion ringgit. And in international business, based on the data we have, Japan's economy rebounded at a slower than expected pace in the second quarter from a COVID-induced slump, highlighting uncertainty on whether consumption will grow enough to bolster a much delayed fragile recovery. Japan has lagged other major economies in fully recovering from the pandemic's hit due to weak consumption, blamed in part on curbs on activity that in fact lasted till March this year. Well, on our feature discussion today, we have the topic of organ donation. It is Organ Donation Awareness Week at the national level. In fact, this started on August 13th over the weekend and will end in the next few days on the 20th of August. This year's theme for the Organ Donation Awareness Week is Derma Organ Chakna Demi Kehidupan. Well, joining me today is Dr. Hasti Haron at the National Organ Donation, of course, in the National Transplant Resource Center. He's the National Organ Donation Clinical Senior Manager. He's going to walk us through this. Doctor, thanks for being with us. Such an important topic, and gladly, we'd like to highlight this as well. It is an awareness week, and so we're right here in this space. Tell us, what is the current situation of organs in need at hospitals, and what are the levels of necessity? Is there a critical or an adequate sort of level? Please walk us through that.
All right. Thank you, Jessy, for the question. To say about the current situation of the organs in Malaysia or in our healthcare. So what I can say that our demand for the organs actually is very huge. So I can comment that we actually are very critical in needs for organ because we have a very, very few supply of organ. So we don't have many donors. but we have many patients who's waiting for organs. So looking at our statistic up to June to 2022, so we have a very much 10,278 patients who actually waiting for organ. So you must remember that this number will be increasing every month and every year. So for example, for the kidney disease patient, so even the kidney failure patient is about 15 to 20,000 who actually suffer from end-stage kidney failure, and only 10,000 are indicated for to receive organ transplant. So how about our donors? Actual donors is very, very low. So we only have about cadaveric disease donation who donated after they died. It's only about 700 actual deceased donor. And then the numbers of transplant also is not that many. It's only about 2,678 transplant, where we actually started transplant as early as 1975. And this is already 2022, where we only achieve about 2,000 transplant. So we can say that it is very critical for the services for the organ donation and transplant in our country, and it is definitely
Doc,
not
I have
adequate.
a question here. You said from 1975. Obviously, decades have gone by. We've only done about 2,000 transplants. What are among the most needed organs in the country? Why is this reflective of any sort of lifestyle or behavior Malaysians have? And furthering that, it does seem like the awareness level, although multiple efforts has been done, is not quite reaching out to the people, Doctor.
All right. First of all, the most needed organ that in dire of transplant usually we can say is a kidney, because kidney patient who suffered from kidney disease is a lot. It's many of them. Like I mentioned just now, about 50 to 20,000 is actually patient end-stage kidney failure. So the thing is, the other organs also not also very important, like heart, lung, and liver, but the numbers are not as staggering as the kidney, because most of these patients who really need a transplant, so if they didn't get the transplant, they will die very, very soon. The numbers is very, very low, like among is in between like 8 to 10 patients who's needed a transplant. So this is very important to mention about prevention of the disease, like you asked just now. So because some of the patient contracted the disease because of the lifestyle, and then how we actually taking our self health care, and also the fact that nowadays there is a lot of things that or illegal medication or supplement that are not approved by the government or by the Ministry of Health, and this supplement or this as not approved medication can cause organ failure as well. The public or Malaysian has to take care of themselves, not to suffer from the diseases and included for the transplant list. This is another challenge. But when you suffer from the diseases and you already in the list, that's another challenge that we need to get transplant to be done as well. Yeah.
What are the criteria for the organ donors? And someone that has recently been affected by of course, during the pandemic with the illnesses or disease or even COVID, can they be an organ donor too?
All right. If you want to register as organ donor, there is no strict criteria, because we don't screen you before you become a donor. I mean, when you're still alive, you want to register, we don't do medical screening. The thing is, because we only screen or evaluate your health when you die. After you die, then you want to become a donor, your family consented for donation, then the doctors will screen everything for you, your current diseases at that time and so on. This is because when you register, when you're still alive, you never know what's your status that time. You may not having a HIV during that time, but you may having HIV later in your life. So we don't screen when you want to register. But in generally, we don't want to accept a donor with transmissible diseases, which usually like HIV, and as well as active cancer, which can actually make your organ are not suitable. But when you want to register, you can always register. Your evaluation will come later on. And for COVID, initially COVID is not suitable. When COVID started, because we don't understand COVID-19 very, very well. But now there is a certain guideline that we can accept certain patient and certain organ donation from this patient, and we have to assess the risk and the benefit from this donor as well. Yeah.
Doc, what seems to be some of the obstacles in terms of raising awareness or in the organ donation drive program? What seems to be some of the challenges there?
Well, the challenges is always come to make the public understand about this program. First of all, when we started this program, like in 1997, this is something that not everyone know about it, you know. And now we have gone through a lot, and then the most difficult challenges is to correct the information that people receive. You know, some people perceive organ donation is wrong. Some people perceive organ donation is not permissible by the religion, and also some people think that there is a mutilation when we do the procurement or when we do the harvest, and then there is a lot of myth that surrounding organ donation. This is the challenge that we want to highlight when we want to do the awareness and the organ donation program, and some other challenges to actually to ensure this is become a culture that accepted by the whole population in general, because we are still in the low organ donation rate in compared to other places or other country. Yeah.
Right. Doc, thank you so much for weighing in. Of course, it is Organ Donation Awareness Week at the national level. This goes on for a week right up till the 20th of August. This year's theme is Derma Organ Chakni Demi, or rather Chakna Demi Kehidupan. All of us coming together as Keluarga Malaysia, and perhaps this will, further encourage some of us out there to donate our organs. Of course, that I'm sure is a rather straightforward procedure to register. You can visit the website, the official organ donor website, the National Transplant Resource Center. Dr. Hasti Haron, thank you very much, and we will speak to you very soon. Well, it's time now to take you through the international news segment, but here's a quick update that we just have from the Dewan Negara. Tan Sri Anwar Musa said his ministry, the Communications and Multimedia Ministry, is focusing on three main aspects in efforts to make Malaysia an ICT hub in line with My Digital, that initiative. He said that the three main aspects are communication infrastructure improvement, also adding digital investments or attracting them, and building manpower and human capital in the digital technology sector. So, of course, exciting news coming out of the ministry there. But taking you through, of course, the international now, the United States has recorded more than 92.9 million confirmed COVID-19 cases nationwide, with over 1 million deaths as of this Saturday past. The nation's top public health agency back on August 11th loosened many of its recommendations for battling coronavirus, including no longer emphasizing social distancing and dropping the recommendation for self-quarantine even after coming into close contact with an infected person. Well, still at the U.S. lawmaker delegation arrived in Taiwan yesterday for a two-day visit, during which they will meet with its president, a second high-level group, to come amid continued military tensions with the island's giant neighbor, China. The de facto U.S. embassy in Taipei said the delegation is led by Senator Ed Markey, who's being accompanied by four other lawmakers on what has been described as part of a larger visit to the Indo-Pacific region. And from that, we move on. Myanmar court is set to hand down a verdict on several cases against ousted de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Today, each case carries a 15-year sentence. She's been charged with at least 20 criminal offenses since she was toppled in a coup last year, including multiple counts of corruption. However, she denies all charges. And in weather, NASA's Worldview satellite image captured Britain's landscape during turning brown from green due to drought caused by the heat waves. We have these images here. The island's landscape was mostly green back in June, but this picture taken here on August 13th shows a large spread of brown, especially across southern and eastern England. England suffered its driest July since 1935, with only 35% of the average rainfall for the month and record-breaking 40 degrees Celsius heat. Meanwhile, from there to Spain, firefighters in Spain's Valencia region struggled to control intensifying blazes across the region on Sunday. A fire that broke out in Valdevo started on Saturday after a thunderstorm and burned 3,500 hectares, forcing 1,000 locals to evacuate their homes. The region faced 3 big forest fires over the weekend. Well, this year, Europe has suffered a series of heat waves, forest fires, and historic drought. We'll bring you more updates on these stories as they develop. From there, we move on. A first ship carrying Ukrainian wheat to be exported under UN broker deal arrived in Istanbul yesterday. It was the first shipment of wheat from Ukraine, which, along with Russia, accounted for nearly a third of global wheat exports before February 24th, when Moscow launched what is described as a special operation. Of course, a total of 18 ships have now departed from Ukraine over the past 2 weeks, following the deal with Russia to allow a resumption of grain exports from Ukraine's Black Sea ports after they were stalled for about 5 months due to the war. Well, that brings me to the end of today's program. As they say, that's a wrap for now. But Hari Kebangsaan is happening in about 2 weeks. Remember our theme this year, Keluarga Malaysia Teguh Bersama. Please help spread this hashtag Keluarga Malaysia Teguh Bersama, one word, on your social media account. Before I let you go, join my colleague Pasha on The Nation at 3 p.m. today. She speaks to Fadli Bakhtiar, Program Director of Eco Nights, as well as to Paul Fong, Country Director of Dow Singapore and Malaysia. They talk about sustainable community approach to tackle climate change, such an important topic. Please tune into that. I'm Jessy Chahal. Come back tomorrow, same time, same place. I'll be here to bring you more updates then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with me. See you.